Welcome back to the pit. Today I'm joined by a couple of guys from the band Skinner, a Bay Area band. I've got Norman and Robert joining me here in the studio. Guys, Bay Area. When it comes to metal, man, there's a lot of history associated with the Bay Area. You guys are from the Bay Area. What part?
San Jose.
South
Bay.
South Bay. So when we think of Bay Area metal, not so much San Jose, usually Berkeley, San Francisco, things of that nature, Oakland.
Yep.
It's basically thrash.
Thrash.
Home
Yep.
for thrash, right? You got
Yep.
Forbidden, Exodus, Testament, Death Angel, Violence. I mean, and of course, Megan. Got Machine Head, and Metallica, a lot of big bands from the Bay Area.
Yep.
So here we are, 20 years removed from the big Bay Area thrash movement. How does that kind of inspire you guys, move you guys? Where do you find your piece in all of that? Is there any inspiration that comes from that into this band? I mean, is that still a big thing up there? Let us know, kind of take us into what the hell is going on in the Bay Area,
You've been around.
I don't know
longer
where to
than I
start.
have.
Okay, so, all right, I've got an axe to grind, all right? Because I was there, all right?
Tell us about that.
I started playing live in a band called Hellhound in 1985. Our first show was at the Mabuhay Gardens, right? And what was the bass? The drummer for Motorhead was actually in the audience because they were in town. I was so nervous, my hands like shaking. But that band Hellhound, we opened up for Slayer at Ruthie's Inn, New Year's Eve, 1985. We opened up for Megadeth. We opened up for Anthrax, Spreading the Disease. We played with Death Angel. We opened up for a band called Legacy, who later changed their name to Testament at Ruthie's Inn. I mean, because I was there, right? I mean, and so, I'm pissed that I didn't get to sign and go on, freaking tours and do all this stuff like all the other guys that I was, in the scene with. So, so when I write songs, I still have that fury of, God, I got to get, make this happen. Norm's a little bit newer to the scene, so a little bit of an age gap, but
Not a huge age gap, but yeah, back then, I wasn't able to go into the clubs. I was still too young. So by the time I hit the club scene, most of those bands had broken up or they were, on hiatus, and grunge was hitting really big. So, I started getting into metal right when it was not the most popular thing. So
When I look at the two of you, I don't see much of an age gap, which obviously if there's one there, that's to your benefit.
I hope that means he looks young.
We'll call it that. So the age gap that is there, I mean, a generation apart as far as the music scene itself, not necessarily in terms of generation in people terms, but as far as a scene apart from each of you.
Mhm.
You were there when it was a scene.
Just between us two, but the band goes far beyond that. I mean, as far as age and
Let's start here, because again, that's a starting point for a big turning point in metal as a genre. It was very, very popular. I think as a genre, metal in itself has a tendency to run from popularity. Yet you were involved in a scene where it was cool to be popular, to be metal, but be popular. There was a lot of bands that were popular, and they were going about it the right way. They understood that there was more to it than just throwing your axe over your shoulder and strumming some notes.
Right.
What was that like? Because now it's much different, and in a minute I want to get into it with you.
Sure.
On how you perceive it, because again, it's a generation apart, so to speak. But you're coming from a time when metal was popular.
yeah.
Was that a bad thing?
No, not at all. I was probably the first guy in my high school to have the battle vest, right, with all the patches, and people like, Metallica, yeah, and I'm like, fuck, dude, I was in Metallica, like, in 1982 when I got their demo tape. What do you know about Metallica, right? But yeah, it was there was a sense of pride, right? There was a sense of pride of being part of a brotherhood. Hanging out with guys, like in Forbidden and Death Angel and Testament, and that was back in the day when you could hang out and and James Hetfield would still walk around before they got too big, and I'll never forget I was standing in line to see Armored Saint and Metallica, and I see this guy in a blazer, and somebody goes, "Hey, that's the singer of Slayer, right?" And so everybody was out there promoting, everybody was out there supporting each other. And it was a great feeling. I mean, it was a sense of pride that you were part of something big.
Now, how long have you guys been a band?
It's not quite 3 years, maybe 2.5 years.
Yeah.
And you're a 6-piece,
Correct.
3 guitar players.
Yeah, we the way that came about was we recorded an EP on Dana Mufin, and we brought in. It's not even. How do we start? Basically, when we were going to audition for a second guitar player, Alfred was brought to the table by our bass player at the time. This guy's badass. He hasn't played live in like 12 years, but he's phenomenal, And we heard him play, and our former drummer, who's no longer in the band, he was the only guy that was like, well, I don't want him in the band. And we wanted to be unanimous. We wanted everything to be, not a dictatorship, So we passed on it. But we liked his playing. We brought him on board and let him do a solo on one song. That turned into having him coming out live and playing that solo a couple times. Hey, why don't you learn a couple more songs? Until finally we're like, he's in the band. But by then we had already gotten a second guitar player, which was his son Grant. So it wasn't a thought process of, hey, we need to have 3 guitar players, we're going to write in 3. It just kind of happened, and it's working.
Influences are obviously something that we always talk about, not just in metal, but in all music, in all art. Obviously, there's some years between you. Most of the bands, the artists that we get to interview are younger, so when you ask them their influences, they're telling us bands that you had the opportunity to perform with. So, who are your influences?
Easy ones, Metallica, Slayer, Exodus. But newer bands as well. I'm a big fan of Lamb of God, Trivium.
But more so early influences, because even the Metallicas, the Testaments,
So okay.
these were peers to you, were they not?
Yeah. So the beginning was, I'm like 10, and I'm sitting on the couch, and I see this. What the hell is this on the TV? Don Kirshner's rock concert tonight. Kiss. I'm like, Kiss? Who are these guys, right? I mean, smoke and blood and fire. And I'm like, I want to do that. That's what I want to do, right? And then later on, it was AC/DC, right? Judas Priest. But that was the catalyst. It was Kiss. I was like,
I hear that. That's like the most common, like, for guys
yeah.
of your age group. I always hear Kiss.
What was your Kiss?
Mine was different. I didn't get into. I was sitting around with my buddy Craig, and I grew up. I didn't have any older siblings. I didn't have any friends that were older that could turn me on to like the new wave of British heavy metal and stuff. I didn't get into Priest or Maiden until like '95. I had to work myself backwards with all these bands. I grew up with MTV. I was listening to Bon Jovi and Def Leppard and Motley Crue. People now would be like, "What?" But I was watching Poison videos, seeing all the girls they got going. I want to do that. And her, and her, and her. And, so I was like, I want to learn to play guitar. Obviously that didn't work out. But that's what set me off in the first place, was I just saw, these are the guys getting the girls. They're playing metal music. That's what I want to do.
But now you're playing metal music, and I think, well, you've been doing this long enough to see that metal is a sausage fest. So what's up with all those girls?
Yeah,
Where's the motivation now?
I missed the era, unfortunately, right?
Right.
He lived the era, I missed the era. I should have been in spandex.
So what do we need to do about that? Because personally, I mean, prior to the interview, we got to experience the Sausage Fest to the next extreme.
Oh yeah, the Montana.
Okay. Personally, I think some tits in that application would have been much better than some sausage snacks.
I agree. We're gonna work on that. We're gonna work on that. I'll see what I can do.
Well,
But I know what you're saying. I mean, right now, if you go to a show, you've got 80+% dudes. There's not a lot of girls there. If you go to a rock show, on the other hand, it definitely changes. But right now, when I go to a show, at least in the Bay Area scene, this is something that I don't really talk much about, but you look around, almost everybody there is in another band. Nobody wants to be a fan anymore. everybody wants to be in a band. And I honestly think that there's too many people in bands. And then, you know, you have great bands and you got bands that just shouldn't be. And that's just, well, some people might disagree, but that's what I think.
You touched on, you know, metal this, rock that. Where do you guys fall with subgenres and classifications and categories and things of that nature?
Power thrash. And it's basically, it's like my last band, Imagica. They were a purely thrash band. They released 3 albums under the, you know, the thrash title. But then I joined, and I actually like to sing, you know. So then all of a sudden the power metal, the European power metal influence kind of put in, so it became a power thrash band. These guys are very rooted in thrash. You hear the likes of the Exodus, the Forbidden stuff. I'll thrash it up, I'll throw in a little growl here and there, but I like to sing my Halford, you know, power screams. I like to actually sing. So then we kind of fall in that limbo area of power thrash, where sometimes we'll play with heavy bands, but we're too light for them. And we'll play with light bands, but we're too heavy. You know what I mean? But for the fans that like it, they like it.
Yeah. When I write a song, you know, so generally speaking, I write the music, he writes the lyrics. We go back and forth on the arrangement, you know, with everybody. But when I write a song, you know, I try to write, you know, something that's heavy, somewhat technical. But when it comes to the chorus, I try to make it big, all right? Because I'm thinking of the singer. I'm thinking, you know what? I got to write something that, you know, he can sing over. I'm not going to write, right? That's just me.
Bless you.
Same for you?
I'm not one of those singers that has a book full of poetry. I don't write anything. You give me music and then I listen to music, then I write lyrics and melodies and stuff. But until I get music with drums, like I don't want no click track and a guitar.
Yeah.
He sends out, here's a new idea for a song, I don't even listen to it. I wait until they have,
He told me he was listening to it.
Why is that?
because there's nothing I'm really going to do with it. I mean, I need the drums, I need to feel the whole thing, you know what I mean?
Basically.
Otherwise, I don't want to have to redo my work that I've already done, you know what I mean? I just want to feel it, listen to it in my car for, you know, a few days, get what melodies, I always start with the melodies first, so it's catchy and it's hooky. And then, once I got that, then I'll go into lyrics and stuff. But until I got the drums laying it down and I know exactly what the feeling's going to be, I don't want to write a song and then later on when they add another element of music to it, go, oh, well, what I did doesn't work. Now let me be less efficient and rewrite again. So, you know, I just wait. I mean, of course, you know, I love to dice their songs up and mess with the structure, but, you know, they don't seem to mind. So.
We're in the studio with the guys from Skinner. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to get into their DIY mentality and what really pushes this band along. We're going to talk more about the stuff that you kind of grew up with in the 80s. And again, we're going to get into a couple of different things between you guys with the age difference and whatnot. We're going to do that when we come right back. Don't go away. Welcome back to the pit. Today I'm joined by a couple of members of the band Skinner out of the Bay Area. I've got Robert and Norman, and we're talking about, primarily with Robert, about, you know, the 80s, the Bay Area thrash movement of the 80s. It's something that Robert was fortunate enough to have been a part of. And then, of course, you've got some of the younger guys in the band who kind of see things differently. Now, this band takes a very DIY approach, and obviously things are done a lot differently today in the industry than they were back in the 80s. The industry is completely different for those who haven't been paying attention. And let's start with you, this DIY mentality. How has that changed from when the metal industry was truly a revenue generating industry, when it was producing artists that could, you know, truly support themselves through their arts? Obviously, it's a lot different. DIY mentality is still the same, different. Step me through that process with you, because you're the one that's been in this industry and seen most of the change and had to endure along with it.
I'd say a huge one is the internet. So, you know, back in the day, you know, we had to make flyers, and, you know, the flyers were, okay, let's cut this out, let's paste this, tape this, photocopy, and now, you know, you've got Facebook and, you know, other avenues, Reverb Nation, and these ways to just do your, you know, show promotion. Back then, you depended, you know, you everything you could do to find management and find a label to get your name out there, because it was really tough to get your name out there. I mean, you could write letters to and send promo packs, you know, in the mail, right? Not the internet, not email, you know, and wait. Maybe you got in a magazine, maybe you didn't. So you know, labels were, you know, they held the keys back then. I mean, that was it. So you did everything you could to get on Megaforce, Metal Blade, Combat. You know, I don't know if Roadrunner was around back then, but nowadays you can do so much yourselves, right? Now we've got Facebook page, we've got our own page, we've got Reverb Nation, we've got, you know, a couple of other ones, and so you know, we have a lot more power, but you know, so it's changed quite a bit. Yeah.
Going back with you, you're the younger one. Do you ever remember a time when there wasn't internet?
When I first started in the music scene, of course, you know, but I was the younger guy in the band always, so I wasn't taking care of any business. So not really. I mean, you know, the first time I remember really starting to promo and do stuff, you know, was in the MySpace era. And so there was already a social media. You were already getting mailing lists together and stuff. You know, but I think the problem with the way it is right now is everybody has access to these things. So everyone can put together, you know, their promo stuff and this and that and make it sound as good as possible. And then, you know, you get flooded. I'm sure with Project Independent, you put it out there, I'm sure you get flooded with tons of bands, right? Just sending you crap left and right, you know what I mean? Not just the good ones.
It brings me to my next question. You guys pride yourself on being DIY. You talk about managers, labels, things of that nature. And I'm kind of using this question to bring me to my next point. Managers, let's start with labels because that's always the big topic of conversation. What's your philosophy about labels?
Don't get us wrong. I mean, we would love to be on a label. We would love to be, you know, out there more. You know, I think both of us share the perception that, you know, we have to do the hard grunt work first, right? So we could get a label deal probably today if we, you know, tried hard enough.
We've already turned down label deals.
Yeah, but it would be like, oh, okay, you guys are, you know, here, and so you're not going to get much, and so you kind of have to prove yourself. And so what we're doing is busting our ass, trying to get our name out there, you know, get the Facebook likes up, play as many, you know, good shows, get out of the area, try and get some tours, write like hell,
Yeah.
endorsements,
Yeah.
everything we can do to prove ourselves so that when we do, you know, get to a label, we're more credible, we've got more to offer, and therefore we get, you know, a better deal.
And labels want a finished product anyway.
Yeah.
You know, even if, when it comes down to an album, if you present them with a fully recorded album, they're like, hey, there's one thing we don't have to pay for also, so.
The reason that I asked your opinion of labels is I know a lot of people are happy about the demise of the record label. I know a lot of people in the industry are happy that they have the same ability to promote as you never had before because of the internet. Used to be the only people that got those kind of distribution opportunities were people that were signed to labels. And you know what, as an artist, and please believe me guys, I'm the artist first. Started just like you did. From that perspective, I used to feel the same way. You know what, fuck the labels. Screw them. We need to be able to do this stuff on our own. But now, being in the industry, being on this side of it, I step back and I look and I'm like, okay, what did the labels serve? Well, my perspective, they were quality control. Because you never got to get into the public's ear or get the distribution deals or the iTunes platform if you didn't have the label. And everything that the label put out was quality. Might not have been what you were into,
But it was quality.
but it was quality. Now we have just the opposite. And I think that that's created a bigger problem in that everybody now has the ability to get it out there. Now we can't find the good artists because they're wallowing in a sea of shit.
And everyone now can be an artist with the technology, right?
You said it earlier.
Right? One guy,
Everyone wants to be an artist.
everyone wants to be in the band. There's no fans. Got one guy, I play guitar in my bedroom. I'm gonna program some drums, I'm gonna play a little bass, I'm gonna sing myself, and here we go, I got an album out there. And so do my other 5 friends instead of being in a band with me, they're making their own albums too,
Yeah.
right?
So, taking the DIY approach, fuck it, we're gonna do this on our own. In your opinions, when it comes to your business model, what's the most important thing in getting your music out there and getting your art to the general public?
2 things. Marketing, because if no one knows about it, you're done, right? And 2, distribution. Once they know about it, they have to be able to get it. To me, those are the only 2 main things you need. You need them to know about your product, and they have to be able to get a hold of it. I mean, other than that, the rest is just extras, right?
So as a DIY organization, how do you go about accomplishing both of those things?
Having a plan, I'd say. You know, we sat down at the beginning of the year and we said, all right, look, here's the game plan for the year. These are the things we need to do. And we look at other bands that are more successful in that next, level or 2 levels above us and say, like, we don't have a video, right? We need a professional video. We're working on the album. We don't have a PR company, right? So we don't have an in to Revolver magazine. We don't have an in. And so, we've made some phone calls and we're meeting some people at NAMM this weekend. And, what we need to do is say, hey, look, okay, we get the album, we book a tour, we have the video, right? So all the things that a pro band would have, and then we have a campaign, right? So we're looking to hook up with a PR company and say, all right, look, they're going to make those calls and they're going to get the local media and then people, out to our shows and do a showcase and just and push, use our heads, right? And do it smartly. Don't just like
Throw a tour together and just, we're going to do a headlining tour across the U.S. just because we can, and no one shows up. Because no one knows who you are.
And from what I've seen, 9 times out of 10, if you were to present this business plan to a band, well, 9 times out of 10, they wouldn't want to put forth the effort to make it happen. But that 1% or that 10%, whatever the case may be, that do want to make it happen, the biggest excuse that I hear, not that it's not legitimate, is it takes money to do that.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah.
I mean, right now, being as candid as possible, we're like, okay, we got to put money together for this video. Well, we really want to get some shirts. These shirts are going to have to go on hold because we can't pay for all this stuff.
Right.
We got jobs, we got families, and we got the regular life. What is this really? It's an expensive hobby. A lot of people don't understand that these big bands that you watch, they're on tour and they're doing all this stuff. When they're off tour, they're at home trying to bust their ass to get a job because they have bills to pay. It's not like it was back in the day, I remember the first time I tripped out was Nevermore. And I found out that, I think the singer's a chef in his off time and this and that. And I was like, the other guy's an accountant or something. Really? And it's the reality of it that a lot of people don't know is there's only that small percentage that make this their career. Most of us, it's a very expensive hobby where we make no money or just enough to sustain us during that time period that we're on the road.
And another aspect, for me is I have an obligation to everybody in the band to not, go out and buy some new car and get myself hooked up into some, debt that means I can't, contribute to the band, right? So every time I look at, the bills, I go, okay, well, I need to keep money aside for merch, for, our band rehearsal rent, for all the things that we're doing because, this is a lifestyle, this is a love, this is a passion, and I have an obligation to everyone to, do my part.
We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to talk to these guys about their PI experience. 2011, they finished 3rd in the Project Independent thing that we do around here. We're going to talk to them. We're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back. And welcome back to the pit. We're joined with the guys from Skinner. And these guys finished 3rd in the 2011 Project Independent. Guys, it always sucks to not win. Tell me about it.
Well, that was
I never thought we would win.
Really?
Well, being very honest, I see I guess as a musician standpoint, the first thing you see is Project Independent, and you're thinking voting stuff like that. You're thinking it's another battle of the bands, right? That's what you're thinking. But it was so much different. It was really a showcase of the bands that wanted to prove something, the bands that thought they were good enough to take the stage and had no problem getting critiqued and checked out, and because hey, you have to have the balls to do it, right? You have to have the balls to say, hey, we're gonna submit, we're gonna sign up for this thing, and we want to know what you think because we think we're good, right? So, but the whole time, Rob was in charge of it, setting it up. I was just like, okay, whatever. I just thought it was a battle of the bands until the day of, actually.
Yeah. In the beginning, I was like, we'll give it our best, right? And then when we made it through, and we got closer, and we got into the final round, I was like, we got a chance at this. And I loved the experience all the way around. As we were sitting there, we didn't go on first. We went on, somewhere midfield. We were listening to the critiques,
Did a great slot.
and a lot of times it was, the bands weren't moving around enough. They were like, and I told you, I said, hey, look, we need to step up our game, right? I hear what he's saying, and we did our best, but
the biggest critique, they're moving around
yeah,
enough.
and that's huge, and I didn't really think about it so much until I heard your perspective of you're putting on a show, you're entertaining people. Yeah, that's great that you can play some arpeggio or whatever, right? But you need to move around, right? You need to make it happen. You need to bring it. You need to keep people engaged, right? Make eye contact. Do a fist bump. Do this, do that. And that really struck me like, you're right. You're absolutely right, right? We need to do that.
It's just elements that keep the fan engaged. You know what I'm saying? And ours is a very active art form. It's very energetic. And, oh, man. I mean, you guys know, I do the critiques, and
I got nothing but praise from you guys. So
Yeah.
I was smiling. I was like, hey, look, I think it was you, or he was like, first thing, your singer is phenomenal. That guy, you guys need him. I was just sitting there smiling, like, I like this. This guy knows what he's talking about. But I mean, you guys picked up on a lot of things. You covered everything. I mean, you did your homework. You did your background. It wasn't just the live show. You checked out the songs that were recorded. It was nice to hear that you're like, hey, this demo's killer. And we're like, we recorded this at our house. This is not a demo. It was just a track. You're like, sounds good, It's just good. It's not only the critique of the certain things that we could work on, it was the validation of all the things that we had done well. You know what I mean?
Well, I think with this program, guys, I'll be straight up. I would love to be able to come in to a city on any given night and showcase the absolute best bands in that city. But the bottom line is, there's a lot of expenses that come with this, and to make sure that we cover those expenses, a lot of that burden comes back on the bands. We get a lot of shit for that.
But it's nothing new to any bands.
Yeah,
Everything
yeah.
really costs money.
We know, right? If we play and we're not drawing, all right, the venue's got to meet their costs, right? They got to pay the security, they got to pay the staff, And so, all right, if we have to,
But at the end of the day, for us, we still have an obligation to fill those stages.
That's right.
Because we have an obligation to put on a product. And as the years have gone, that product has increased, from one thing to the next. And it seems to just keep getting bigger and bigger.
Right.
Congratulations.
Yeah, that's great.
That technically is a really good thing.
It's just about getting you guys the exposure that you need. And if certain outlets that are already in place aren't going to open their arms to us, then I feel that the technology out there exists. It's just a matter of finding out what we can exploit within ourselves, within our genre. And if people aren't going to pay attention to our art, then maybe there's other ways for us to get them to pay attention. Now that's me. Obviously you guys are going to be looking at it different because you're the artist, and I appreciate that as well, but I'm looking at it as how can we use the technology that's available, or even let's create our own technology. Jesus, man, I know some pretty intelligent dudes that are in metal bands, man.
I think we definitely gained fan base from being part of the Project Independent. People are going up there to vote. The fact that we were in maybe the top 5, people are checking those few bands. They're like, well, who are these top bands? And they're checking us. They're hearing our song that you guys posted up. I thought everything was done really well. If I were to throw an idea out there, I'd be like, stream the actual shows as they're happening, so people online can be like, oh, and or you could also have people, even though it may not count because you have your panel of judges, you got people voting at home being like, oh, I thought these guys were really good. And then, look at it later, or maybe just a couple ideas.
So again, you guys participated in 2011, not last year.
No.
Last year was the year that we did implement the live HD webcast. So
See?
that's something that you guys haven't been exposed to.
Right.
Great minds.
Something else that we implemented this last year, when you guys did it, you were critiqued at the showcase event itself,
Yeah.
and then from there you were given the opportunity to do the online voting. And at that point, the online voting was strictly the determining factor as to who won this.
Correct.
We've since implemented an industry panel as well.
Yeah.
So now, the scores that you get at your critiquing session, they are actually carried into the final round of judging. That becomes a third of the final score. The online vote now is only a third as opposed to the all be all end all. And then of course we have an industry panel that once you make it to that, now keep in mind, the year that you guys came through, there were 161 bands, I believe,
It was a
that
lot.
We're very proud
part
of
of
where
that.
we finished, yeah.
Now that there's an industry panel, the criteria has toughened up quite a bit. You had mentioned earlier, these days you must be complete, and you're absolutely spot on. Why? Because the days of industry scouts walking into a bar and saying, man, I like your band, I'm gonna throw you into a studio and I'm gonna make you a star, those days are gone. Because the technology exists for you guys to be able to do this on your own, we expect you to do this on your own. Why? Because why the fuck are we gonna spend money on something that you guys are already spending money to do yourselves? But you're right, there are certain advantages to record labels or to just industry relationships in general. I mean, I think you guys are pretty smart and understand that as DIY as you are or claim to be or take pride in being, this is still in the end an industry of relationships.
Correct.
You know what I'm
That's
saying?
exactly why we're working on our, a PR company. Once that happens, label, I'm personally not worried about labels at all. As we touched on earlier, if we get a good PR company, and you can work your own distribution deals, they are very open to that. I mean, you sign a couple distribution, you sign yourself, in North America, or Europe, maybe hit on a South America or Japan. If you get all your bases covered and you got someone marketing that actually has the contacts, because you need those industry contacts. This is, you can be as DIY as you want to be, but if you don't have those contacts, you're only going to get so far, right?
Absolutely.
And I think
So-
if we do our jobs right, we'll get approached by a label, right? We have to do our job. We have to get our name out there.
We'll
We
get
have to
approached by a
prove-
label that actually
Yeah, we
is
have to
worth
prove
something.
that
So
we're
far,
worthy. I mean,
yeah.
they may not come out to shows, but I know they've got a pulse. They got their finger on the pulse of what's going on. They know what bands are hot and what markets, and they probably just have a kind of more of a sit back and wait. Okay, let's see if these guys really gonna prove themselves. Are they worth? So
What are you looking for from a label?
Me? Just those two main factors, just the marketing and the distribution. And that's why I'm not worried about a label, because you can really do those yourself. You just pay a monthly fee to some PR company, hoping that they prove themselves. There's a lot out there that you're just gonna blow your money for a month or two and then realize, oh, they're not doing anything. Which happens more times than not. But once you find one that actually has the contacts, is doing the job, which hopefully we found the right one, we'll
Yeah.
see. Once they're doing that and work out a couple distribution deals, you're set. You're taking a large chunk of that profit for yourself, as long as you're paying for what you need to with the marketing company. You get that profit, and then that can go back into your machine, your band, and help you get more merchandise, help you get more albums out there, and possibly you can fund your own tours, as long as you have a band that can draw. Because like right now, Skinner. Anybody in Oklahoma know who Skinner is? Maybe a couple people, right? If we were to go set up a tour through there, it'd be disastrous. Why would we do it? It'd be a waste of time, it'd be a waste of money. But if you find a band that's somewhat higher up, they see you're doing good, you get on that tour with them, then you're playing to a wider audience, you get a better fan base, It's a smart way of doing a tour. I see so many bands from the Bay Area right now, they're just throwing these, we're gonna do 16, cities across the southern US, and we're gonna play with local bands and stuff, but it's like, honestly, I say it's a waste of time and resources.
Looking forward, what's on tap for you guys? What's on the immediate horizon? What do you guys got on?
A lot.
Immediate horizon, okay. So on the immediate horizon, we're working on an album. All the instrumentation is done. It's all on his shoulders now to finish the vocals, then we'll send out for mastering. At the same time, we're working on artwork and duplication. We're in talks with someone to do video because we don't have a pro music video. As soon as we get that video, then we'll have the album pretty much ready to go. We're gonna get the PR company engaged, and we need a couple of months lead time for the printed press and all that, and just we're gonna do a tour with a PR company. So we've got advance notice. They're hitting the radio stations, they're hitting the local magazines, webzines, whatever, and we're gonna end it with a showcase, and we'll see where that gets us. At the same time, we're still writing.
And that's really just more of a 6-month plan, or maybe a little more.
Yeah.
So we're a very business-driven band. We sit down, we have meetings, and we have an itinerary, and we try to put together a strategy plan. Because really, I mean, if you want to make it far nowadays, you really have to treat your band as a business.
Yeah.
I have one more question. I want one person to answer it. I don't care which one, but I want one of you guys to answer it. Who wants the question?
I don't know what the question is,
I
but
love questions. You want it? I'll take it or not.
Who wants it?
I'll take it.
He's a man.
In regard to you, your band, and your music, your career, define success.
Success, recognition. You can be the greatest musician in the world, but if you're playing in a coffee bar, in front of 2 people, to me that's not success. To me, success is recognition. Having people kind of hear your music, see what you're doing, have some appreciation. Not everybody's gonna like what you're doing, especially in metal, but getting that opportunity to put it out there, and that kind of gets back to the label, right? I see the label as a big opportunity. They open a lot of doors that we can't open ourselves, and so to me, success would be being on a label, going on a tour, and getting that recognition.
That's Skinner. You can check him out online at
SkinnerMetal.com.
SkinnerMetal.com. Or more importantly, you can get off your fucking lazy ass and go check them out in a fucking venue. That's it from the pit. Until next time, keep your feet on the ground, your horns in the sky. We're out.